Welcome to the Michael K. Gray Show, where we highlight change makers. Today we will be communicating with a great change maker that is doing a great job in our community. And that leader is no other than the mayor of Hillside, Mayor Hillside, Dahlia Vertreese. Mayor Vertreese, welcome to the Michael K. Gray Show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and I thank you so much for doing this, because as an elected official, a lot of people are not interested in our stories. It's very, very hard sometimes to get people to talk about politics, and you've been in this for so long. So what made you transition, start this podcast? I'm honored to be the first guest on your show. But to leave like legislation and start to come here on the grassroots level and want to talk about our stories, like what made you want to do that?
Well, thank you for that question. Actually, I've seen like the great work lots of public servants have done. And I used to serve as the district director for the late Congressman Payne Jr. May his soul rest in perfect peace. And many times, like, people don't understand like the hard work we do on a consistent basis to improve the quality of life of constituents. So I've taken this responsibility to be able to highlight great people that are doing things that people don't really recognize. And I told the wise to reach out to you because I felt that you're a change maker that is doing so much in the community and wanting the community to know about your accomplishments and how you are transforming the life of Hillside residents.
Thank you so much. I mean, it is such a professional setup. I mean, we got fancy little microphones. It doesn't have all the wires and stuff going through. If you've been through these interviews, usually they got to go up your back and then it's all weird and awkward, and I wasn't dressed for this. So I'm very, very happy to be here. So what kind of information do you want to know, and what do you want to share with your viewers?
So I just want to know a little bit about your background. I know your father was a
Newark police officer.
A Newark police officer, and your mother was a nurse.
Yes, hospital administrator. She'll kill me if I don't make that clarification.
Oh, thank you. So wow, that's great.
But she was a nurse, but yeah, then she promoted up and got her RN and all these degrees. And my niece is still a RN. She works for St. Barnabas. So public service is definitely in my family.
Okay, wow. So that runs deep within your system, your blood. So when I read your bio, I realized you've done so much in terms of providing like services for the senior citizen, like the bus, providing street sweeper for the sanitation department, providing scholarship and mentoring program for Hillside students, having one of the best cancer walk program where you generated about $40,000. So can you tell me about some of your recent project in terms of infrastructure, physical infrastructure project you're working on currently?
Okay, so that kind of skips ahead to like where we started from. And I will tell you, being the mayor was not necessarily my dream. Like, it wasn't something I thought of as a little kid. But because I was always in public service and community service and talking to people, I was also a Newark educator. So I taught the Newark Public Schools, AP Euro, AP US, sociology, Holocaust and genocide. I will say that the students actually helped me with public speaking and planning and strategizing. I'm forever grateful to my students for that. You did talk about the late, great Congressman Payne Jr. And I remember when he was one of the first people, actually the first person to endorse me when I first ran for mayor. And I was like, when I first got into my office, I was like, first of all, there's no files. Everything's been shredded and nothing worked. It was so crazy. The wires were all over the place. The internet shut down when the rain hit. We had transformers from 1955. So when you talk about infrastructure, we literally had to rebuild the township. And I was explaining to Congressman Payne Jr., I was like, I'm just rebuilding everything. I was like, nothing has been touched in like 30, 40 years. And he's like, yeah, like this is what I've been trying to do for Hillside. Since my tenure, since I've been the congressman, I'm trying to make sure that Hillside can make a come up. But we've always had issues with infighting, and people didn't want to respect the former government, and then people would get on council and feel like their job on council was just to fight the mayor. And in between that fighting, It's a strong mayor form of government. So the people elected you as mayor to guide the township. But the infighting just kept the communities just stagnant. And so stagnancy, not being fiscally responsible, making sure that you're keeping up with inflation, explaining to people, being transparent about where their tax dollars were going. These were all of the things that we had to do in my first term, basically lay the foundation to build a better Hillside. And that became my moniker in my second term. So now we found out that our pool was dilapidated. It was never winterized for years. We were dumping $100,000 of tax dollars into a pool that most people in the community didn't use. And then we weren't taking care of it. So naturally, of course, the pipes started to fall apart. We had feces floating around in there. Then Hurricane Ida hit and it made the damage even worse. Once we were able to demolish the pool, and that took some finagling with the council because people didn't want me to have those successes. But once we were able to demolish the pool, like anything else, like even in your house, you go to fix something and something else is broke, or you find an extra room, or and so we demolished the pool and we found a pool underneath the pool. So those were like hidden expenses and things that have been done throughout the township. That's, everything from the boilers, the electrical, everything had to be fixed, including our sewers and our pipes and our water, just like what you see throughout the state of New Jersey. So now we're in a place where we are finally rebuilding our spray park. The congressman got us a little bit of federal money for that. I would like to see more assistance from the federal government and the state government to support more aquatic activities, because it is the number one reason for death amongst young children is drowning. And we are closing our pools. And that's not a solution. Swimming is a tool, and it's a skill. And it can keep you from becoming a state police officer. It can keep you from joining any military. It really limits your opportunities in the future. What if you want to become an FBI agent? You can't join those organizations and not know how to swim. And all of them don't give you that opportunity to learn. You either know it or you don't. And so if we're closing all of our aquatic activities down, especially when it comes to Black and Brown communities, we're limiting those opportunities and those skills. So in New York, they actually set aside funding to make sure that communities have pools and that they are supporting the training and the coaches and swim skills and training and CPR training so that they can try to limit some of those deaths. So this is why the pool is a very, very important asset to our community. I want to make sure that we bring it under recreation so we can make sure to use our tax dollars to make sure that it's safety. But if you are not interested in swimming, maybe you don't like to swim, we also have a spray park. If you just want to get wet and just enjoy the day and go eat with your friends or have a party fundraiser, these are the community activities that we're working on for the pool. And then we have been trying, and then we're finally ready for to put the shovel in the ground for our library. And it's going to be called the Veterans Memorial Library. And the reason that is because not only is it on a veterans plot, the memorial building used to be there. Hillside has so many veterans that served in World War II. We actually have a boat named after one of the huge naval ships, named after one of our residents. His name escapes me right now. Oh my God, I'll get it back to you. But we have this very rich history of military service in Hillside. So we're definitely trying to encourage more of our veterans to be involved in making sure that they are pivotal and making sure that this building continues to build and we get bricks and things like that, just to support that history. And then our rec center. I remember when I first took office, had no heat, no air conditioner. So the kids were playing basketball and I couldn't even stand to be in there. It was so hot. So we were able to get an HVAC system. We redid the roof, cleaned it. I remember there were just dust bunnies everywhere. We made sure that there were touchless sinks. We've renovated the building, and we have a brand new floor. And so we've been doing a lot of work as it pertains to our buildings. And then, of course, the sewers. So the sewers is a whole nother animal that people tend to neglect.
Right.
We do have an adopt a sewer program, and we're trying to encourage citizens to make sure that garbage is not flowing into your sewers, because not only do you still pay for it, it's really, really bad for the environment. It goes out into the ocean, the animals eat it, it's got carcinogens, recycle properly, and then you can keep your sewers from backing up. Right. And in the age of climate change, with flooding and all that stuff, we need to do the best that we can do to address anything that exacerbates flooding. And then I would say finally, really trying to get people to buy into our tree program, because a lot of Black and brown spaces have lost a lot of our vegetation. Mm-hmm. And we are overheated in our communities. The parks, it's hot. You know, you're trying to play on equipment and there's no shading. The oxygen levels, asthma is higher in Black and brown communities because we just don't have the proper vegetation to make sure we're cleaning the air. So those are just some of my initiatives in the community.
Such a short span, you've done like so much for this great township. I've been following you in terms of your disparity study program. Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate a little bit on that and why you think is very important and what you hope to achieve from that initiative?
So it's not my disparity study program. Okay. There is Anderson and Associates did the analysis for the African American Chamber of Commerce. Okay. So shout out to John Harmon and the board for making sure that the disparity study is exposed to varied communities throughout the state. Okay. I just talk a lot about who we don't see in the room. I've been on panels and I've talked about the issues that African Americans, particularly African Americans, have, the struggles we have with bonding. Mm-hmm. Black women being the most self-funded entrepreneurs, not getting the same assistance as some of our other minority counterparts. We like to throw Black people in this realm of people of color or minorities. Right. And to me, that's just making us invisible. And it allows other people to achieve equity through the work that we've done in this country for that equity. And when we're not paying attention to the people who have essentially built this country and the people who, and I will say, and I'm very vocal even about Haiti, the way we treat Haitians, I'm like, there would be no continental U.S. without the efforts for freedom in Haiti. Right. And to target Black people who are still we are a minority, regardless if we are from Nigeria, Kenya, Haiti, Jamaica, or Liberia, right? We are not the majority. However, when you look at us as the 13%, most of us are homeowners. Most of us are having children, but we're not getting the best in our tax dollars. The state of New Jersey is the largest employer, and yet over the last 10 years, only 13 vendors were minority owned. That doesn't say Black. Blacks were less than 1% of that number. So that's one business. Right.
So true, very true.
And I am very passionate about this because the overarching narrative for Black people is that somehow our long-term generational poverty issues were our fault. Like, oh, you didn't work hard enough, or you didn't put your boots on with the straps and get to walking. And it's like, well, I had boots, but then you put holes in them, or you took them away. Or you didn't provide me the same quality of boots or sneakers as you did other ethnicities that came to this country. And I say ethnicities because when we talk about the immigration issues today, number one, our government did a very lazy job in immigration reforms after the 1920s. And now we want to set aside a different set of standards. And it's ironic that it's like the Republican Party that's saying what they're saying today, because Republicans were very pro-immigrant at the turn of the century. Yeah, like the Democrats were, the party of the slaves and like Andrew Jackson and all that stuff. So to hear Republicans today say, let's not learn about African American studies. And it's like, well, in that study, in those DEI studies, that's like why you're the grand old party. Like the strides that the Republican Party made and why so many Black people were Republican prior to 1937, really. They say 1932, but it's really 1937. And that was because of the Great Depression, of course. But anti-lynching legislation, voting against limitations on women's bodies, like they saw it first as a public safety issue. Like Republicans saw it as a public safety issue. So to have like this total switcheroo and people not saying, or speaking that truth to power is what leads us down this road of not seeing people. And it leads directly to this disparity study, because when we're not questioning those systems and we're not holding true to our principles, this is exactly how people get left out. And this is exactly what we need to be aware of as African Americans. Like when we say entitlement, I'm talking about the Homestead Act, where you had people that came here from Europe. I don't know if you remember that movie Far and Away.
Right.
They just like got off the boat and then like ran and took land from people and were like, yes, I have a white flag and this is my land, right? And they said it was okay.
Right, it's fine.
And you got land.
Yeah.
Here you have people who work the land. We're supposed to be in Blue Jersey, a very progressive state, and you're saying you can't even get 13% of the business, 6% of the business, something that's equitable to the people who live here and who are paying taxes. And there's something wrong with that. Policy-wise, equity-wise, how can we keep our communities together instead of being gentrified? Making sure that we have equity so that we can really close this wealth and education gap in a meaningful and informed way. It's not trying to make anybody feel bad. It's just, it makes no sense that you have all of these people, many of them who live in the inner cities, who are spending more money in places like Newark and Jersey City and Patterson and Plainfield. They're spending more money to live in these inner cities, and yet they're not getting access to the business that the state can offer. More egregious is that the majority of our state dollars goes to, and there were different categories in the disparity study. It's like a 220-page document, but the majority of those dollars go to 17 white male-owned businesses. 17.
So first of all, thank you so much for educating me and the viewing public about the disparity study and its implication and how it can improve the quality of life of people within New Jersey and maybe beyond to say. But what are some of the things that we need to do to change this, to rewrite things, to make things better? Is it more from a state side for now and then to the federal legislation? So how do we tackle this issue to be successful?
So I think more people need to come to presentations where, the disparity study is going to be discussed. I do think that there should be more organizations that invest in making sure that these disparity studies are placed in their neighborhoods, community centers, so that people are well informed to hold what we say our elected officials accountable. So a lot of people like to throw that accountability word out there. They don't really know how to really hold someone accountable. To me, in order to hold someone accountable, you need a report card, right? Like, in order for me to be accountable for my A or accountable for my B or accountable for my C, you have homework, you have quizzes, you have due downs, you have my test scores, you have my midterm, you have my final, and that justifies exactly why I have these results. The disparity study, it is our homework, our test scores, our exams, and that gives us a little bit of a checklist, at least economically, to then hold whoever becomes the governor, as well as our assembly people, because they're up for election next year as well, accountable. So how are you doing on these issues? When's the last time that you've addressed them? That's number one. I would say number two is just really helping people understand how government works. We don't have a dictatorship, at least not yet.
And we're very prayerful that it doesn't happen, right?
Listen, it's looking kind of scary. As a history person, I'm like, man, I read this story before. It's not looking too good for the home team. But I will say, like, when you blame one person for everything, then that means they're responsible for everything. And I think people know that that's a little illogical. Like, even as like parents, or, you know, if you're a principal, you're responsible for a whole school. Like, you have people that help you make those decisions. You can only work with the budget that you're provided.
Right.
And until we really start to make those connections with government and saying, this is this person's responsibility. They said they wanted to do this. Instead of saying, oh, well, you didn't do it. Ask, like, well, what happened? What were the obstacles? How come, you know, I see that you did X, Y, Z, or you co-sponsored this bill, or you provided this, you know, where did that go?
Right.
Then also making sure that, and this is what the Constitution allows people, you know, the elastic clause exists for a reason, making sure that our legislation is monitoring and adjusting with the times. Because a lot of our legislation is just old and outdated, and it makes no sense.
Right.
And we're forgetting our history. So you heard me mention earlier today, just for example, women's reproductive rights.
Right, you know,
and it's amazing to me, and again, this goes back to the disparity study, because that's the economic piece, but we also have to understand that economics, it really touches on all of our institutions. So women's reproductive history, it really starts with Black women, right? There would be no such thing as an OBGYN practice without the mutilation and murder of Black women who were enslaved. And they did all of these experiments, and they killed our children. They squished their skulls to see, you know, how much pressure a baby's skull could have in order to use the forceps, right? The instruments that we're so excited about today that are saving lives killed people at one point in time, killed Black women. And what often disturbs me is how we have never been a part of that discussion. Our story has never been a part, and that's the origin story of OBGYN, midwifery practices. Like, that's what we did. Like, not only did we have to take care of our own kids, we had to take care of other people's kids. We were the nannies, we were the pediatricians, and yet our story was not included. And moving forward from that, we have completely forgotten there were millions of women during the 70s that died either through complications or because they were getting illegal abortions or they didn't know that they were sick. And that's why it was a public health issue. And we've completely forgotten that people were getting those back alley abortions and they were bleeding out and they were dying. They ruined their entire uteruses. And we're completely left out of that story.
I mean, you're absolutely right. So now that you just prompted another question in my mind. So how is it like being a leader, a female, and an African American? What are some of the challenges that you face? Because sometimes people love to see other race, you know, maybe excel in the leadership arena. And there's this big discussion about the diversity and inclusion. And for some reason, people keep talking about diversity and inclusion, but Black people are not actually benefiting from it.
Right.
So what are some of the challenges that you face being a woman and also an African American woman in the leadership arena?
That's such a loaded question because we are, if you look at any industry, we are really driving forces. Like I said earlier, when it comes to the disparity study, we are self-funded. Like, how does that happen? You have some people that are like, no, I need to get all this money and I need grants and someone has to support me. Whereas Black women are like, okay, no one's going to support me, so I have to figure out how to generate this wealth on my own. It's not fair, but sometimes I think we get used to being abused. And people have normalized that abuse. to the point where now when you're outspoken about things, it's, oh, you didn't have permission to write that article, or who do you think you are talking this way? The stereotypes start to come out, and we saw it in the last election. You have someone who was very qualified, and people kill me with this perfect candidate stuff. Oh, they weren't the perfect candidate. I'm like, who is?
Yeah,
like,
who is the perfect candidate?
Unless you're like, you're saying that there's like this perfect Manchurian candidate out there. Why are we so hyper focused on people's flaws instead of their qualifications and what they do very well?
Or their accomplishments.
And you have people today that still will not admit that Harris lost that, number one, because she was provided an unfair advantage, an experience that Black women have all the time. You were thrown into something that to save the party or save the day or save somebody else, and you're taking the L for a situation that you didn't even create, number one. And number two, you weren't even chosen first, right? You were there the whole time. They stuffed you in a corner, and then they said, oh, we made a mistake. Can you come and fix it, right? That has been our experience.
All the time. Even when it came to Barack Obama, when the economy was extremely bad, he was brought on to like save the economy. And now they were looking up to Kamala Harris also to save the party.
Right. And I do think that she made it salvageable, but it's gaslighting when you say that racism and sexism wasn't that. I mean, honestly, you had the choice between chewing food and chewing glass, and we chose to chew glass. I'm not saying that it was a filet mignon. Right? I'm not saying it was a cheeseburger. I'm not saying it was a turkey sandwich, but it was edible. It was something we could work with, and we chose to chew glass. Yeah. And so you can't tell me that that was not what it was.
So we just pray for that things work out for the best. Hopefully you have some check and balances in the United States government.
Maybe
it's so unfortunate that we don't. I don't want to say we, but the Democratic Party does not control like both chambers. But
even the Democratic Party, right? I mean, let's just. I'm going to put this out there, and I look at I'm a Christian. I love Jesus, but I look at the fact that he only had 3, and of those 3, his best friend denied him 3 times, right? When he was hanging on the cross, his followers, everybody just stood there and watched, and that was it. And what that teaches me, like, I could be bitter about that, and I could say, oh, well, no one's going to help you. Or I could say there's no such thing as safety. There's no such thing as security. And if you're going to be a hero, be a hero. Like, no one is going to come in and save you and just no.
That is so true.
The story of Jesus was like, he saved everybody else.
But no one could really save him.
No one could really save him. Right. And the flip side of that is people are fallible. No one is perfect. And people make these choices, and fear and apathy, that's really the destruction of society, right? And democracy over the centuries is very fragile.
Right.
And when we don't respect or understand or invest ourselves in what that democracy means, it is easily taken away. And
so very true.
I think for Black women, we have to learn how to better take care of each other, because we're stronger than we like to admit, and we're stronger than what the world likes to see. And I've said, we're invisible. Like, we are the 94% in the Democratic Party, whatever the 90 whatever of the Democratic Party. You go in any church, women are running all of the different departments. They are the secretary. They are the beginning and the end of the operations in the church. And you go to a bank, you have Black women that are bank managers and the VP of this and the VP of that, but hardly ever the CEO of this or the CEO and the chairperson. Like, so our talents are often, we are overqualified and undervalued. And people have gotten used to us being in that space. Okay. And resenting us for trying to get out of it, because that's really what oppression is, right? People say, oh, I've given you an opportunity, and the opportunity they give you is in a little box. But once you try to go beyond that box that they have quote unquote given you, now you're ungrateful. Who do you think you are? I made you. Right now, like all of these talents and skills that they saw in you that made them want to have a door opened for you, they resent you because you want to go beyond the box or you want to go too far. And I say,
so they want to bring you in, but they want to have some restriction on how far you can go.
Correct. Very, very limiting. And I will say that that is definitely the Black woman's experience. And even amongst my brothers, like my brothers can be very, very misogynistic. And you come and you help me, but I'm not going to help you. You need to do what you're told to do. Why can't you work with this person that is not good for your community, but you should still have to work with them because they have the title, or because they're a man, or because we're bros, or we went back, from the neighborhood, and
Right.
and I'm going to support this person even though I know that they're not good for the community, and I'm going to put you down, not because you're doing anything wrong, but you're a woman and it should be a man in that space.
Okay, so very unfortunate. So coming to my next question, I've realized that you're being very much supportive of education, like providing scholarship for students and mentoring program.
Yes.
So this is like a question that I'd like you to also include both male and female, maybe it could be other race also. So what are some of the advice you will have for emerging leaders, or maybe experienced leaders in other sectors that want to get into the public service arena?
The first thing I would say is, what about your community are you passionate about? Don't just run for office because someone says, oh, I think you'd be great at this and the other. Like, you have to find things that you're passionate about, for yourself, right? It has to mean something for you. And don't run for public office because of the title. Like, it's just a title.
Right.
Like, for example, everybody's afraid of Donald Trump and this and the other, but I'm like, he's the president. The term governor is older than the president. Our laws in New Jersey are older than the Constitution.
Right.
Like, we have something to work with here. So those experiences are not just taken away from you. You have to fight to keep them. So understanding government, understanding why you want to run based on your own priorities and what means something to you. Like, I got interested in politics because, well, again, my husband got laid off. It was the Great Recession. I was a teacher. I could no longer afford to teach. I had 3 babies too many. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, I can't afford to teach. So I left a profession that I love dearly because I just couldn't afford it. And that wasn't right. And then I think the straw that broke the camel's back was I was walking my babies down the street, and my side of Hillside did not have street signs. And if they did have street signs, they were dilapidated, they were falling apart. The letters were all cruddy. The poles were nasty. And I'm walking around, I'm like, well, why is it like this on my side? I was like, let me think about this. So I drove on the other side of town. Oh, all their signs were glossy, they were reflective, they had the township seal on it.
You mean when you went to the other township?
No. I went to the other side of Hillside.
Oh, the Hillside. Okay.
Right, 2.7 square miles.
So there's an affluent side and the other side.
Right. So those are subliminal messages
Right.
that you send to, one side of town,
Right.
which is majority Black, and
Right.
the other side of town, which was not. And it was like, yeah, we'll invest in signs on this side, but on this side, we're just going to let them fall apart and just be whatever they're going to be.
So thankfully you changed that.
Yes, it was one of my first initiatives. I was like, no, we have to replace these street signs because that is sending a message to the kids that live over here that you're not as valuable as someone else.
And one of the things that thank you for that message. One of the things the Congressman fought for was bringing about unity between the administration and the Township Council for the betterment of the Township of Hillside.
Yes.
So I realized that you will go to many meetings and talking to members of the council that, look, it's very important that you guys work together to help the people. Have there been improvements since then?
There have been improvements. You in the beginning of our interview, we talked about a lot of the things we got accomplished, but we had to put it forth first, and then of course get the buy-in from council so we can move forward. We have gotten better in some respects, but I do think that when we talk about politics, people need to understand that there are outside entities that are not elected officials that control those elected officials. And sometimes they do not make the best decisions for the community. And so as the mayor, like, you're the face, right? And so sometimes you have people on council that just want to sabotage everything, make the mayor look bad because they want to be mayor, or they want to serve another god. They want to serve another master. And a lot of times that is somebody in the Democratic Party, somebody like thinks I'm a political boss, like this is my community, I run this community, I get to tell you who you can hire and who gets the job and all that stuff, even when they're not even qualified for a particular job. I don't play those kinds of games. I just don't, like, because I know that I'm gonna be the person to have to wear that by hiring someone that's inept or incompetent. And there are people who just don't like that. So in some ways, yes, we've gotten things done. We've moved the township further than it's been in decades, but we still have some of those issues, those behind the scene issues that people don't understand.
Correct. I think you should be going for re-election next year.
Yeah.
And I'm entirely impressed with all your accomplishments. Are you comfortable going towards the election period? Because like with the stories that you just expressed, I'm hoping that more Hillside residents will have the opportunity to be able to hear what you're saying and then some of the things that you want to do to help them. So are you comfortable going to election, or do you need to get the word out more?
So yes, I am going to run for re-election. I'm not attached to outcomes like that because I am a believer in community, and I do think that I respect the community so much that they're going to elect exactly what they want. Right. And
hopefully that will be you because of all your. I mean, it's like I've been in this arena for a long time,
right?
And every time I visited Hillside, particularly with Congressman Payne, I saw lots of development going on, and I saw lots of people that were not engaged, very engaged in the process. I know that you're not paying me to say these things, but I observe it.
Right.
I've seen it. So maybe the issue is just getting the message out because you've done the work.
It is getting the message out, but we are in a different age. Like this whole, if it didn't happen on Facebook, it didn't happen.
So true.
I have literally put posters up on every corner in Hillside, and people are like, oh, I didn't know when the breast cancer walk was. I was like, it was literally on every corner, and people are like, nope, I didn't see it.
Because it was not on social media.
It wasn't on social media, or they just didn't pay attention. They're just, everybody gets in their routines, and I know I do it. You get on autopilot to go to work or whatever. You're not thinking about what's right there. So it's too expensive to send snail mail. You can't afford that. And so communication, I just think in America is an issue, because now we have people talking about fake news and AI generated stuff, and people just have to make a personal commitment to use a little more discretion and discernment about what they want to see in their community. And are you actively looking for things to do in your community? And I'm always talking about mindset, right? Community, commune is everybody together, right? And like I said, it's not a dictatorship. So if we could get more people together, come to township events, come and talk to, I'm a very accessible mayor. Come and talk to me. I'm picking up my kid from public school. I'm picking up, him from the rec center. I'm very accessible. But if you go to our township events, because I get people to say that, well, I only started election time. Well, did you come to the township event? Because I got to do my job. I can't always campaign. I have a job to do as the mayor, and I have to do all this stuff.
Public service aspect.
Are you coming to the Martin Luther King Day flag raising? Are you going to participate in the breast cancer walk? I would love to see you. And if you have any questions or concerns, don't suffer in silence. Come and ask me. If I don't know, I'll get back to you. That's community, right? And I'm excited about re-election because I am very proud of the fact that, yeah, I'm pushing up a boulder, but I'm pushing it, you know?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people throwing tomatoes, so I slip back down the hill, but I'm slowly and surely pushing it up the hill. And I'm very, very grateful for my administrative team, my BA, my chief of staff. I couldn't do half of the stuff that I do without them helping me and guiding me. I look forward to their advice. I say it all the time, I can't do anything by myself. I need my people, my squad, my community, my seniors, give me advice and encouragement. So
they love you. They love you a lot.
Yeah, and I love them, and I love them, and I love the kids, and it's, if people don't see that about me, that I have not made any decisions in the township of Hillside that have been to the detriment of our township. It has always been onward and upward and forward, especially as it pertains to the 21st century. I'm really, really dedicated to continue to invest in our 21st century infrastructure, social, community building, all of that stuff.
So, with all the great work you've done, you have 3 children, right?
Yes.
And married. So how do you balance public service with the love, attention you give to your, because I always see you on Facebook or some social media, interacting with them and all that.
Well, over the break, I kind of took a step back from social media. I was getting a little exhausted.
Okay.
But there's no such thing as balance. I'll tell you that right now. And there is such thing as compromise, and I have debates with my friends about the difference between sacrifice and compromise. And I just say that sacrifice is something that you give when later on you're going to resent because you didn't really want to give it. Compromise is me saying, okay, I'm going to fail at something every day. What are you going to fail at today?
Okay.
And it may not even necessarily be failure, but it's, what am I going to say no to? Because if I say yes to something else, then I'm going to say no to something else.
Okay.
So it's something that I can't do. And those limitations or boundaries, whatever you want to call them, are also healthy. Because if you try to do it all and you want to live under this myth of perfection, you're just abusing yourself. There's a part of self-love there.
Understandable. So I know you had a great relationship with my boss, the late Congressman Payne.
Yes.
And you'd like to just briefly tell a little bit about the relationship. And the last question I'd like to pose to you would be, what do you want to say to the people of Hillside?
Aw. So Congressman Payne was like a big brother to me. I miss his voice. We have so many funny stories. People didn't know, he was such a funny, loving person.
So true. So true. So true.
I remember one of his staffers called and was like, Congressman Payne is gonna call you. And I was like, in the car driving from work, and I was like, okay, that's okay. And he was campaigning. Yeah. So he calls me, and it's like a recorded message for the campaign, and I was like, hey, what's going on? And he was just like, Mayor, he was all professional, and I was like, why are you talking like that? And he's just like, I'm paying for this. What are you doing? I was like, well, what are we doing? So then he was all upset, and we had to retape it and all this other stuff. But it was hilarious. So many funny stories. And he is very much missed, and he gave me a lot of advice about, never forever enemies, never forever friends. Circumstances change, but he had integrity. I love that if he couldn't do something, he would just say, I couldn't do it. But if he could, then he would do everything that he could to help you. And I already said miss him, but I did. I loved him like a big brother. He would call and check on me. He would talk to my kids. My oldest thought that he was the coolest man ever because he had his own clothes. Wow. Run DMP.
That's so beautiful. That's beautiful.
I do worry sometimes, about the next generation of elected officials. Because we've lost a lot in New Jersey.
Yes.
And
Sheila Oliver.
Yeah.
Ron Rice Senior, Francis Crowell,
And it's not that.
Congressman Donald Payne Jr.
Yeah.
Midra Crump, Council President Midra Crump.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's why I tell young people to get involved in elected office or think about running for office, because we're not going to be here forever. And we have to have someone to pass those nuggets to. And it's not that you're going to redo my journey,
Right.
but I do want to at least advise you on some of the pitfalls so that you don't repeat my life. Because if you repeat anything that I did wrong
Right.
or suffer the
Right.
way I did, then
Right.
my life didn't mean that much. Like, I'm doing this so that someone in the next generation can move further.
Yeah, learn from what you've done and move
Yeah.
on. So what about, so the great people of Hillside is listening to you right now, so you can just speak to them right now.
So I will say to my constituents of Hillside, I continue to do the work. We've been doing the work. I'm very serious about where I live. I love my neighbors. You can see me. I don't go around with an entourage, but if you're vigilant, you'll see me walking and talking to people usually every week, unless something comes up. I am looking forward to re-election. I am looking forward to knocking on your doors and asking for your continued commitment and encouragement to be your first, I think, third-term mayor, to continue to do the work for you and make Hillside that community that we've really been coveting for decades now. I'm not treating you any different than the way I would treat any members of my family. I treat my seniors like I treat my mom. I treat the kids in Hillside the way I treat my kids. The programs that I brought to Hillside, it's the things that I've exposed to my own children to. And I'm not asking anyone to do anything that I myself would not do. So I am really looking forward to continuing in this work and building a better Hillside. And to even the people outside of Hillside, I'm sending love to you. I know I have friends from way down in South Jersey, all the way up into Sussex and Passaic, and people that I've helped in their campaigns. And I look forward to reaching out to you as well and thanking you for all of your continued support and love.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome, Michael.
Ladies and gentlemen, the change maker, Dahlia Vertreese.
Thank you so much.
Oh, God bless. Thank you. It's a pleasure having you. Thank you.